Hello, this is Bharat again from Palmistry Unplugged. And today this morning, we're going to talk about now the fire hand. The last time we talked about the earth hand. And so the earth hand and the fire hand, as I mentioned before, these are broad hands. And in fact, you can see an example of the earth hand. That is actually my hand. This is a broad hand. It's greater than 75% the length of the palm. And it is kind of a squareness to it. But what's the distinguished characteristic? Like if you have a 10 centimeter hand, that this is greater than 7.5 centimeters, which is 75%, and mine is about 9 centimeters. That puts me right into the fire category. Now you see it. I see many fire hands. Like I mentioned before, I see fire hands and air hands mostly, and practical hands. Now the fire hand is unique. It's like a step up from the earth hand. It's still a broad hand, but it's much more sophisticated. It's much more developed. The circuitry is much more developed. It can go into higher development as well as any other hand, and it can be a good hand to have. Well, you don't really have a choice about it, do you? So, but the fire hand. What distinguishes the fire hand is this broadness, is that the fire hand, a person who has it, they're active. They're usually active people. They're doing things in the world. And there's two characteristics of the fire hand. Then I'll talk about the first characteristic, which is creativity. Mostly all fire hands are doing things creatively. And I would say, well, there can be 5 to 10% that don't do anything creatively. And what I've interestingly discovered is that people that are not creative with their fire hands are usually working in finance, so with money. So, but mostly people with the fire hand, whatever they're doing it somewhat creatively, not just through rote memorization. For example, if they're a teacher, they're teaching their children in a creative way. If they're a writer, of course, they're writing creatively. If they're a cook, they're doing it also doing creatively. So there are more typical professions of the fire hand. This would be somebody who is making something with their hands, or it doesn't necessarily be hands of making something, and there is a result. So what's the archetypical type of profession with the fire hand would be an architect, designer, hairdresser, cook, anything. In fact, you can do anything creatively. So again, but mostly that would be the really typical professions of somebody with a fire hand. So they're creative people. Now, but the second aspect, which I find actually to be I wouldn't say more important, but more, I would say more important, is passion. People with fire hands need to be passionate about what they're doing. And if they don't have this enthusiasm for what they're doing, they lose it quickly. They'll easily become bored, or they go the other way. They get too passionately involved in what they're doing, and there's burnout. So fire hand people always dealing with boredom and burnout. So what I always advise a fire hand person, or what I try to find out from a person, is, have you learned to pace yourself, like to know I can do this project for 2 years or 1 month or whatever, and so, that I can prevent the boredom from coming in. I know I have to take a rest and I have to recharge my batteries. And the other way to stop yourself from getting crazy, like, where burnout's going to happen, to govern yourself. So all people with fire hands need to learn how to pace themselves. And once they do pace themselves, they're fine. Now, the thing is, so if you're doing a project, and this is also in relationship, like you should never be in a relationship or a project because it'll just make you money, and it's very not creative at all, and it's not very enthusiastic. I can't stand the job, but it gives me a 6-figure salary. No, that doesn't work. 51% is that a fire hand person needs to be enthusiastic about what they do. They can't just do a mundane thing. I mean, they can, but they're going to suffer, and they won't last. So with fire hand people, they have to be enthusiastic, and also with the relationships. You have to be enthusiastic about what you do. It's something that really grabs you. It's not about just having a job, and it's not just about having a partner. You have to be enthusiastic about your partner. And if you lose the passion for the partner, enthusiasm for the partner, you got to go. And they can't regain the enthusiasm, they have to leave. So fire hand people do have that. But that's the main thing about the fire hand person. It's a good hand to have. It can be creative, the passion. A fire hand person could be somewhat temperamental sometimes. They can also go through, I wouldn't explain radical Saturn returns at this point, but they can go through their emotional issues, like everybody else, I guess. But this is what I want to say about the fire hand. Okay, so this is Bharat from Palmistry Unplugged, and as I mentioned in every clip, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and it would be much easier if you do download my book, and I would appreciate that. Okay, so till next time, we'll see you.